Hello, hello! It is 2024 and it is time to not only show off my new Taylor Swift vinyl, but also talk about books that I read last year. You may think that January is almost ending, but it is better late than never. So while I'm showing off my new vinyl and while I'm creating some small art, I'm happy to talk about books that I read last year, which books I liked, which I didn't like, and hopefully it can give you some ideas for what to read or what not to read in 2024. So, buckle up, it's gonna be a long ride. The first book I'm gonna talk about is Emily Henry, Happy Place. Every time I pick up Emily Henry book, and every time I'm slightly disappointed. I think the whole premise always is a bit fake. So in Happy Place, there is always this premise of pretending that you're still together even though you broke up. I don't know, when I read these books, I'm always thinking, oh, we need a TV show. I think I'm just not an audience of Emily Henry's books because I always get a bit same feeling with reading her books. I had the same feeling with book lovers and with people we met on vacation. I think I should put good old Emily H at rest. On the other hand, I knew that she has a new book coming up this year, funny story. I read all the TikToks about cover reveal. I think I will again read her book. Sorry, Emily Henry, I'll read it again. Maybe this time I like it, I don't know. So if you really like books which seem a little bit fake, when I would say fake, a bit romanticized, I think you may enjoy this one. The other book I want to share with you is the second book at series. It Starts With Us. I think a movie is coming out soon. That's why second book was supposed to be read. Actually, I read the second book just because I found it lying in the library. And my advice to you, unless you find it lying in the library or borrow from a friend for free, do not buy this book. When I started reading this book, and it begins by Atlas, a grown man, writing letters to the main girl instead of talking like adults about their feelings. I'm having a little bit same ick I'm having with Emily Henry. I think I'm just too old about this romance and people not talking and miscommunication. Miscommunication makes a great plot for the book, but it's not that enjoyable to read for me. So you can pick it up if you're looking for some kind of romance, but for me it was even do not finish, to be honest. Next book I read is Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead. This book was hyped up a lot by Book Talk, and man, I loved it. I really loved the writing style, the language. The book is filled with amazing quotes. It makes you laugh. It's a fun premise about some anxious girl, misunderstood girl who becomes obsessed about finding what happens to some old lady. I definitely recommend you to read this book if you're looking for some good writing style. But to be honest, I really struggle with retelling what happened in this book. Right now, I don't even want to give out spoilers, but even if you would ask me to give some spoilers, I don't really understand how the book ended. It was a bit complex for me, but it's a good one. The next one I read is Every Summer After. It's a nice book, and I think I read it in the summer, so I would say I highly recommend this book if you're reading it during summer, and if you want to get out of the reading block. Book was pretty predictable, even though it was easy to read. It reminded me a lot of the book Paper Palace. You have Lake, you have childhood friends, you have the one that got away. And man, I think I'm just getting too old for this type of romantic stories. I always make me feel bad for the actual girlfriend, and there is always this old flame coming up, and I'm like, what's up with the actual girlfriend? But it's a very good reading book. It's easy to read if you want to enjoy something, so I will be recommending it. Now for the two memoirs that I read in 2023. I think I read the very mainstream ones. First one, The Woman in Me. It's a short book and it's great as audiobook. You know, if you're like me, you like listening to podcasts while doing your laundry, you can just get this audiobook and finish it while you're doing your chores. I cannot believe all the stuff that was happening in this book. It's crazy world, and I think if you are looking for some new facts, most likely you already have seen all of them all over TikTok and YouTube and news outlets. So I don't think you will find anything new in this book. Also, the book is pretty short. I think it doesn't dive too deep into all the laundry, but it puts very good perspective from A to Z, from Britney Spears' perspective, and it makes you remember all the stories you saw in the media. You know, Britney is crazy, Britney is a bad mom, and you can finally see her side of the story, and it was amazing to read. And also, I didn't know that Britney had her children so early. She was like 20. Come on, I thought she was an adult. I was way younger when Britney was on her top of her fame. And, you know, back then 20-year-olds seemed like adults to me. Yo, she was a young man. And another spicy and famous book that everyone read last year was Spare. I did not read audiobook, so that I could not enjoy the voice of Prince Harry. And honestly, I was pretty much hesitating to pick up this book. It's also a pretty fat one, but I'm happy that I did. Beside the famous Frozen Dodger line,
my penis was oscillating between extremely sensitive and borderline traumatized.
I liked how the book talks about the life of Prince Harry in the palace, and just like the story of Britney Spears, it tells us a little bit about how unhinged press of 2000s was, how little we really understand what happens in the life of other people. And I know they're celebrities, but you know, you read a crazy story like Prince Harry got drunk, but what was really going on in his life, we don't really know. And I don't think this book is a great source to understand who was right or who was wrong in the Prince William, Kate, Meghan arguments, because we're only seeing Prince Harry's story. But it's a great book that shows us a little bit of behind the scenes. I felt sad for Prince Harry. I can feel that he has a lot of hurt from everything that happened to him. I mean, his mom died, which is horrible. I hope he can get a lot of therapy and find some peace. I like the book. If you have to choose between these two memoirs, Britney's or Prince Harry ones, I would recommend Britney's. It's shorter, I think it's more to the point. I think Prince Harry's memoir was a bit too long. I did not read a lot of self-help books this year, and I didn't read a lot of books about development, but I can recommend a couple of books for artists. If you like me, like creating art, I highly recommend the book Write a Novel series. It's a great short book that can help you to gather your thoughts and to write your book, if you're just like me trying to get your thoughts and write a book. I also got my first book, Art of Tangled series. It's a book about behind the scenes of how the show Tangled was drawn. So if you're looking for some inspiration as an artist, I highly recommend it. And another short book is by Neil Gaiman about art mattering. It's a very short book. You can finish it in 10-15 minutes. It has just a couple of quotes and beautiful art about how it's important not to stop creating art and being yourself. I would say, especially in the year of artificial intelligence, if you have art friends or just creative friends, maybe friends who write books, I would recommend gifting this book a gift. Just small, inspirational one, very nice. And now to the books I truly enjoyed this year. The first ones were nice to have. Now we're going to the must-reads, or somewhat must-reads. Tomorrow is definitely top of my list. I love the writing, I love the premise. I do not think I love the ending, but the book is still worth the read. Just like with all the books that I'm reading, I think I'm seeing a pattern. I didn't like the love story that was going on, but I really liked the premise of the book. It talked about game development. It was interesting to see what makes a game rise and fall, how important marketing is in developing a game, and how sometimes mainstream games are not what the vision of the developer was to begin with. I mean, I think it's everywhere, but I like seeing this kitchen and nitty-gritty details. If you love gaming, I think you will really enjoy reading this book as well. Now I'm heading to the series that I read this year. And speaking of series, I reread almost all Harry Potter books, and it was very interesting to dive into books that I read when I was a kid. It's funny to read childhood classics and see what happens. For example, I read book 1 and it seemed way too childish for my liking. And that's why I skipped books 2 and 3. I think I'm gonna read them this year. I'll try. It was interesting to see that books that previously I didn't like, for example, book 6 that I found very boring, now reading as an adult, actually liked a lot. I think book 6 had an interesting plots and twists when we understand how Harry is the chosen one. On the other hand, book 5, which I really liked as a kid, the story of Harry being a misunderstood teenager, I found a little bit annoying reading as an adult, and I was thinking, oh my god, Harry, just chill. So it's interesting sometimes to take back, and if you're looking for some easy read and to reanalyze in your teenage years, I think it's good to read. Another series I discovered this year was Heartstopper. And actually all the books of Alice Osman. I really like the Heartstopper comics. They are read so easily, they have amazing quotes, amazing art, and I think they raise a lot of big concepts such as how to be yourself, what it's like not to be scared to say no, but the book talks about all these really complex adult concepts in a very easy way. And Radio Silence is a book about overachieving, anxious girl who never does what she likes, who actually only does what she must do. And of course she loves art, but art is not a real job, so she will never go study art. I really liked this book as well, even though you can notice that Radio Silence is a bit early Alice Osman book. I think her writing definitely improved, but I would recommend Radio Silence and Heartstopper series, both of them. It's very easy read. You will finish all of these books, not in a very long time. Now off to heartbreaking series. Last year I jumped into so-called fat fantasy, epic fantasy, call it as you want. It was way harder to get into, so I read King Killer Chronicles Part 1, and this year I read Wise Man's Fear, which is Part 2 of the King Killer Chronicles. What a read! The book is amazing, the language is beautiful, and the only problem is that there should be Part 3 coming in, and the world is waiting for this book is like for 10 years, and there are still a lot of mysteries to uncover, and there is a problem that book 3 might not be coming. I personally think we don't really need book 3. If you change your mindset a little bit, without spoiling too much, main character saw the world, saved some people, got some action, you could imagine that it's the end of the book. On the other hand, book ends on the cliffhanger, so you know that book 3 is really needed to wrap the story up. I would say, if you feel that you can enjoy 2 amazing books, if you're just like me, a little bit done with the romantic plot stories which are easy to predict, read these 2 books, 2 series of King Killer Chronicles. They are amazing. If you're the person who cannot stand being broken-hearted and you really want to have the series over, I think you should still read book 1 and 2, really enjoy them, and then later go to the Reddit, find the King Killer Chronicle subreddit. There are a lot of people to help you mentally there, and we can wait for the book 3 together. Another from epic fantasy, a bit to mainstream read I did this year. Right before going to the movies, I had to check The Ballad of Songbirds, a prologue to Hunger Games. About this book, I really enjoyed it. I love the writing, but here is my hot take. I still think that Hunger Games and Hunger Games prequel are better as movies. Of course, you miss a little bit of inner dialogue and inner struggle, but I think movies really help to make the Hunger Games really epic. And it's amazing to see how everything is done with music, with songs. So you can read the book, but I would personally think that movie is quite good. Don't throw stuff at me. And now I'm excited to share the main find of the year, and I'm a little bit late to the party, and it's Brandon Sanderson. After reading a small book that we received via the Kickstarter, Dress of the Emerald Sea, I realized how amazing the writing of Brandon Sanderson was, and how interesting world building is, and mainly the plot twist in Dress of the Emerald Sea. It left me just mind blown. And that's when I was told that if you read the main stories of Brandon Sanderson, your mind will be blown even more. So that's how I dove into the Stormlight Archive. In particular, I studied on The Way of Kings, which is book 1 in the series. As we speak, I'm half through book 2 of the series. To be honest, the series are huge. Each book is like enormous. If you're just like me and you like audiobooks, you know that average audiobook is like 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours tops. These books are just 60 hours long. So I don't know, even if you listen them on double speed, it's just a lot of book. And there are so many books. There are also in-between books, such as shorter stories. I didn't even look up how many are there. But I must say, after you understand the world and you get used to the names and you understand how names are pronounced, because it's also another mystery, you are in for a treat. Long one. But as book says, it's not about... Oh, no. The book says it's about journey, not about the destination. So currently I'm on the long journey of Brandon Sanderson. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, that's it for the reviews. I'm looking forward to finish Brandon Sanderson books. As well, I went to the local library and picked up Babel, which is also a very fat book. So I might take some break from epic fantasy to read this one. Of course, there is another new part of Heartstopper. This one I might finish in a day. Don't forget to support your local library, read books, and stay in touch. Bye! Oh yeah, and I said bye, but I wanted to tell a little bit about art process, what was happening on your screen. So I basically started my art with acrylics. I realized it was very horrible. It's way harder than I expected. I cut a little bit of paper and tried to make a quirky mixed media piece. It was very hard. So I'll keep creating and keep reading. Bye!